Coming up, the new Siri is slipping yet again, but that's a good thing. Eddy Cue pulls the plug on Apple's AI doctor. More new AirPods Pro are on the way. The best multi-Mac setups. And we have a really good tip about the messaging app. Welcome to the Cult of Mac podcast. I'm your host, Leander Caney. Joining me today, we have Griffin Jones coming in from Ohio. Hey, Griffin.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. And also Lewis. Hey, Lewis, what's going on?
Hey, it's a great day to wrestle with audio settings.
Yeah. We've been messing around for an hour trying to get the technical settings just to record this today.
Wait,
it's been
minor
a complete
correction.
Nightmare.
Leander and I have been talking about what we want to do on the show, while Lewis swears at himself for an hour figuring out his audio settings.
Right, exactly.
Swearing at Craig Federighi.
And there's a pretty funny outburst there, little bad-tempered outburst. Everybody came in for a hazing.
I just don't get it, man. I don't understand why every time I turn on my Mac, all these settings change. I can't explain it.
It's maddening, isn't it? Absolutely maddening.
It is.
Well, that's a good segue. Perhaps some new computers might help. It's showtime, actually. It's 2026 is going to be a really busy year for Apple, and they've got reportedly 20 new products in the pipeline coming out this year.
So we've been here for ages, new M5 Pro and M5 Max powered MacBook Pros, which is frankly a tongue twister. It's too early in the morning to try to get through. But anyway, now it looks like we actually have a time when it seems like they're going to arrive. We've been thinking it was going to be this month, even last month, but no. Now the new target date is supposedly March 2. This comes from, you will never guess the source of this story, Mark Gurman from Bloomberg. And let's see. He says that Apple is going to launch these things the very first, as early, I believe, is his quote, as early as the first week of March, as early as March 2. So that's when they come. And he's basing this on, insider information, plus the fact that like M4 Max and M4 Pro version, MacBook Pro, again, tongue twister, those are in short supply, which of course means new models are incoming. So if you've been waiting to pull the trigger, just wait just a little bit longer. You got like 2.5 weeks probably.
And isn't this dependent upon the next Mac OS update?
The new MacBook Pros, meanwhile, are tied to the macOS 26.3 cycle that runs through March, he says.
Yeah, which is a weird thing to say because that just came out yesterday. So I don't know. I mean, Gurman's usually right about these things, so I would set my calendar for March 2 to start looking for the MacBook Pro with the high-powered M5 chips.
I know I call it a Mac. We've been checking the Apple newsroom every morning at 6 a.m. Pacific time looking for any sort of press release, and it's been a whole lot of nothing. So
yeah, very, very sad.
I guess yeah. Now we know when we can actually start madly checking for those. Still got a few weeks away.
So back to your comments about this being a big year. Supposedly, what we're going to see next is the iPhone 17e. That's like the first new product supposedly coming out, popping out of the pipeline. Supposedly that's going to arrive on February 19th. That's a week away. Very exciting. Mm-hmm. This thing, if you're not familiar with the 16e, this thing, what is it? Is it really a budget phone? I mean, it replaced the SE. I guess it's less expensive, but it's actually kind of cool and different, right? Griffin, you had the 16e for a bit and loved it, right? Yeah. And this new one's going to have a faster chip. Whatever. But here's the thing: it's supposedly going to add MagSafe, which is that was the big downside with it, right? I mean,
and it just begs the question: why didn't the 16e have MagSafe? If a year later they can just add it back in, maybe they thought they could get away with skimping on it, and then enough people, myself included, ragged on them for not having it there. Mm-hmm. But
I say that's the most likely explanation. I'd say there was such a backlash. There was so much griping about it, not having it, and it's such a key feature for so many people that they fixed it. And now this makes it actually a really great phone, doesn't it? I mean, it's not, it's actually going to be a really, really cool device if it does have all the, the A19 chip and MagSafe. You loved it, didn't you? The industrial design and
it is. It just means that, like, for now and forever, anytime we talk about MagSafe, we have to say, oh, if you have an iPhone 12 or newer, except for the iPhone 16e, your phone supports MagSafe in this accessory, which is annoying, but I guess only really annoying to me. But I mean, also for iPhone 16e owners, like, it's sad that, I know a lot of people who have that phone, and, those are the people who just want a cheap phone and want to keep it for as long as it lasts. And, they've got another 4 or 5 years where they won't have a phone with MagSafe. And that's sad, because it's an excellent feature.
Yeah. Supposedly this one's going to be $599, just like the last one. So, I don't know. Sounds like a good phone. And that's supposedly the first new product that's coming. Get ready. 1 week more of waiting. Although releasing it on a Thursday seems kind of odd, doesn't it?
My guess is they'll probably announce it on Monday or no, not Monday, because Monday is President's Day. Probably announce it on Tuesday, and then it'll be in stores Thursday or Friday.
I just don't remember them putting stuff on store shelves on a Thursday, but...
Yeah, I don't think they've ever done that, have they? It's usually Friday.
It is usually Friday, but I think, he also says could debut on February 19. Right. So it probably just means like someday later in the week, that particular week.
Yeah, I can't remember the source of that particular rumor. Some of these rumors are a little sketchy.
Well, we're going to talk about one later. That's really sketchy. Really, really sketchy. We've also got the M5 MacBook Air and a refreshed base iPad with an 818 chip and a Mac Studio with more powerful chips coming in the coming months.
Mark Gurman also wrote at that time. After that, Apple seemingly released the first developer beta of iOS 26.4, featuring the new Gemini-powered Siri.
Yay! Here it comes. Oh,
yeah, I'm so excited for that. Aren't we, Leander?
The big news here is that it's delayed again. Multiple reports in recent months said that it was going to be coming in. The AI-enabled version of Siri was going to be coming in pretty soon, but according to our good friend Mark, he said that internal test builds of iOS 26.4 are plagued with the reliability and performance problems, leading Apple to reconsider the timing of its rollout. The iPhone maker is now preparing to push some of the most advanced Siri features to later releases. Internal testings of these allegedly now being done in iOS 26.5, which is expected around May, and it's a sign, of course, that Apple doesn't expect them to make it into the earlier version. So apparently some AI features might be delayed into iOS 27, planned for this autumn. One of the most likely features most likely to slip from iOS 26.4 is enhanced access to personal data, a function that would allow Siri to pull information from messages and emails to complete complex user requests. And Apple is also reportedly struggling with one of the most complex AI-enabled features, app intents. This would allow a user, for example, to say something like, "Hey, voice assistant, please send the email I drafted to April and Lily," and it would understand the app context and carry out the action, if it works, of course. So, quote, Apple employees testing 26.5 say early support for these features exists, but they don't function reliably in all cases. So while the first developer beta of iOS 26.4 is expected later this month with some incremental Siri improvements, the more transformational capabilities are now apparently in flux. So, I mean, isn't it all of the transformational capabilities, like app intents? That was... Yeah. I went back and looked at that, that infamous WWDC video from 2024 when they showed what Smarter Siri was going to do. And, again, it was based on app intents and personal context. And if they're pushing the personal context and app intents, that's the whole package, isn't it, mostly, of the new Smarter Siri?
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, did you say WWDC 24 as in 2024, a year and a half ago? Yeah. That was the infamous one, wasn't it? Where they promised all these things. Yeah. And that was supposed to be coming that year, wasn't it?
Yeah. The farther we get away from that, just the funnier that is. That whole segment. Actually, I was thinking about this the other day. What do you think is more embarrassing? Apple's Apple Intelligence presentation at WWDC 2024 or Facebook's big keynote where they, with like Mark Zuckerberg, where they said that we're going all in on the metaverse. We're renaming the company Meta because we're going all in on the metaverse and VR and AR.
That I think is definitely far more embarrassing. Far more embarrassing.
It's a close competition though.
Well, this is this Apple. This is famously what Microsoft used to do, and a lot of other companies as well. Vaporware, and I used to do the roundup at Wired of the Vaporware Awards, which we went back and we looked at all the stuff that had been promised for that year and never materialized, and it was just an embarrassment of riches. It was a cornucopia of stuff, but Apple, rarely made it. I think Jobs was very strict about not announcing anything until it was ready. And would often pull stuff, wouldn't he, from keynotes at the last minute if something wasn't up to snuff. But saying that, I actually can think of one good example where that was not true, which is the original iPhone. The original iPhone, even though that was one of the rare cases where they actually managed to pull it off. When they showed that thing, apparently the famous keynote where Jobs showed off the first iPhone, a lot of that stuff was smoke and mirrors, and they were faking a lot of these things, and they actually delayed. It didn't come out until 6 months later, and then that 6 months interim, they managed to fix all of the problems and delivered on all the stuff that he promised.
If you watch the introduction, there's like a few times where he says, "Oh, and we have a calculator," and he just like opens the calculator app, doesn't tap anything on the screen, and then just immediately exits. He does that for calculator and calendar and a few other apps. That's because none of those apps were functional at all. He opened them and just opened to a static image of what they thought the user interface was going to be, and then just left.
Oh, they did the same thing with the Apple II. When they first showed that off, look at this great computer. It was like not real. Mm-hmm. They had to finish it.
Well, this was back at the West Coast Computer Fair back in 1970, whatever.
Right. Mm-hmm. They were using like dummied up things.
So we stand corrected. Apple actually does have a long history of vaporware.
Well, I mean, they fixed it by the time it came out. I mean,
at the introduction of FaceTime in iOS 4 and the iPhone 4, Steve Jobs said, just decided to say, and we're going to make this an open standard so anybody can, do that. That was completely made up. And the FaceTime engineers were very perplexed when they heard Steve Jobs say that, because it was not an open standard and it couldn't be.
Well, everyone's ragging on Apple about this delay, and the more this week was an exceptional week, wasn't it? In AI doom. I mean, there was a couple of insiders. There was that guy that quit Anthropic to go write poetry. And there was another fella who I can't remember which company he quit, but he said that AI is going to be worse than COVID for decimating people's jobs, and it was just all doom and gloom. In fact, I felt very gloomy. It put me in a really depressed mood, to be honest. All this stuff.
It was also the rain.
Yeah, that didn't help. That didn't help at all. And anyway, I think these delays with Apple. I think there was the amount of spending, the amount of boosting going on in the AI industry is off the charts. And it's funny, Apple is the one company, I think, that hasn't spent billions of dollars on AI infrastructure. There was a really interesting graph that came out that showed the different CapEx spending and how much Google is spending on data centers, and Microsoft and Facebook and all the other, Amazon, billions and billions of dollars. And then right at the very bottom of the chart, there's Apple that has spent literally next to nothing. And people are saying, of course, this is genius, right? Because they're getting all the benefits because they're using Google's Gemini without any of the CapEx expenditure. And and the things that people are saying about AI and its impact, even if it's negative, I think that's all part of the hype cycle, isn't it? It's trying to convince future investors and their customers that this stuff is so transformative that the expenditure is justified. And Apple doesn't have to do that, which I think it's interesting that Apple's being cautious and is running to these roadblocks. And I think it's telling us that this stuff is dangerous and it should be done cautiously and it should be done properly. And for what, like every time I see a delay, I mean, on the one hand, it's disappointing because I want this stuff I want to see these features. They do look transformative. But on the other hand, I want it to be done right. I don't want to be, like messing with some open claw, crazy, run amok AI assistant that is going to, ruin my entire
Yeah,
life.
if Apple acted like every other company that's participating in this space, it doesn't matter if it barely works. They would ship it anyways and just, put a
Yeah.
mediocre product that's dangerous out into the world. Certainly
Right.
everybody else is doing that. And also we should also be clear, Mark Gurman was the only person who said that, Apple internally is targeting 26.4. They didn't announce that. We were just expecting it, and
This
Apple
year.
kicked the can down. It seems like Apple's learned their lesson. Like after they embarrassed themselves 2 years ago, they're not we're not going to announce it until it's ready, and it's not ready yet. So we have to wait.
Right. I saw that was a good comment. That Apple has delayed a feature that it hasn't actually
Announced.
said that was going to ship.
Yeah.
I found it pretty rich, though. Apple employees testing iOS 26.5 say early support for these features exists, but they don't function reliably in all cases. Just like Siri right now.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they should
The
just
new Siri is the
revoke
same
the
as the
damn
old
thing.
Siri.
Yeah. Oh, God. I don't know, man. This is crazy. I mean, I definitely understand. Like, you don't want Siri to like start ordering, a bunch of DoorDash food. You go out and there's like 600 pizzas on your doorstep. But geez, could they just make it just a little better? Just a little. And it sounds like that's what they're going to do is just like, here's one little feature that we're adding. And then a little later, there'll be another feature and then, whatever. So, but I mean, this whole thing was just Apple trying to act like, fake it till they make it with AI, right? And they're still trying to make it. Hey, you know what else is hilarious? I for some reason I was looking at a story on Cult of Mac about the iPhone 4S, and it was talking about how, basically all this thing sucks. And as I read through it, I'm like, what? That's weird. I mean, I think of people liking that a lot, but the guy that wrote this ends up saying, Siri's in beta. When they really, because Siri came out on the 4S, Apple talks about it as in beta, and it's obviously they just did this to make Wall Street excited about this phone. And I was like, wow, that's like a flashback. And even back then, Siri works kind of for some things, but not all things. I mean, the problem is we're all used to expecting more and more and more from these things, and Siri seems to be delivering less and less and less, as opposed to even just working as well as it did 5 years ago or whatever. But
Yeah, what happened to all of the Siri integrations with like Wolfram Alpha, where you could say, plot this thing on a graph and it would actually like show you like mathematical formulas or like the deep knowledge that it had of, every actor's like heights and ages and statistics and things, or like its deep integration with Wikipedia. Like, did they take those things out? If you look at I was looking through my phone of like old screenshots of things I used to ask Siri, because I actually jailbroke my iPhone 4 so that I could get Siri early, and it still technically run. And I was like taking screenshots of all the fun things that I was, having it answer. And I don't think Siri does those things as reliably anymore.
yeah, it's really nuts. And I mean, it's also hard to tell how our sort of experience of this stuff has changed, right? I mean, if you think about voice recognition, I mean, 25 years ago, you had to talk one word at a time, and it could be very good if you had a very expensive computer and very expensive software, but one word at a time. Now, every device can hear and understand what you're saying and answer questions and do things, and so you get sort of used to things working properly. And I mean, I see this with my wife all the time. She's so used to talking to Siri or Alexa that she just says, hey, she just kind of like blurts it out. She doesn't even like wait for the thing to like realize, oh, you're talking to me.
Yeah.
Because you're so used to using it. And it just so naturally works so many ways. But I don't know. So it'd be interesting to see how somebody from 2015 thought Siri is now. Maybe they'd go, "Wow, this is really way better."
I think that it's true. It is, isn't it? The natural language comprehension and the fact that you can have music blaring and the speakers, the microphones are so good that it can pick up, something that you say in another room while it's blasting out music. It's actually pretty remarkable how much things like natural language understanding has improved in the last few years. It's remarkable.
Yeah, it's a weird it's a weird ball of conflicting sort of emotions and experiences. You expect everything to work better and better, and then you start pushing it, and then maybe it doesn't work the way you want to, or maybe it's just not up to I mean, they have to hear you address them supposedly before they can start thinking about things. And so,
have you tried the new Alexa Plus?
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, the other day I came damn close to having a conversation with it. It was it was a little bit unnerving. The wife and I and somebody else was here. We were talking, and I asked a question, and then it like answered it. But then it said, "Oh, do you also want to know this?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, sure, why not?" And it went on. And then I asked some other question. It was kind of, I mean, I've never had that happen with Siri.
Freaky.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. It was kind of weird.
Talking to a machine,
but
like it's real.
Freaking people are talking to
conscious entity.
ChatGPT and asking it, for psychological evaluations and mental health tips. So,
and then it asks you if you'd like to buy any products on Amazon or purchase any new skills.
Yeah, exactly. Ads in ChatGPT.
I haven't seen any of those yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen them either. But I mean, there's no way. The story I read about it was it seemed like right now they made all these promises that it's going to be pretty well firewalled. But as you can see with what happened with Facebook, like how long is that going to last until it's like mining every intimate detail that you disclose to it and to sell you stuff? I mean, it's for sure is going to fall.
I mean, that is a good point. Like we're comparing Siri against all of these other products that are loss leaders right now. ChatGPT isn't making money. Alexa lost billions of dollars to be as good as it is. And they tried, shoehorning in a bunch of ads and telling it, every time you give an answer, you also have to plug something you can use to send money to Amazon. But it was still losing money.
Well, they kind of blew it, didn't they? Amazon was, I think, probably the leader in this space. And I don't think they're the leader anymore for sure.
I mean, they had the same problem of Apple in that they were also, they were a little after Apple, but they were still one of the really early systems. And so they built on a bunch of infrastructure that's still a glorified like text adventure interface where every time you ask it, it's trying to, rigidly like piece apart like the syntax of what you're asking. And, it wasn't like a modern, LLM based thing.
Probably, yeah. They're two peas in a pod. That's why they're behind. Mm-hmm. Let's thank our sponsor. And once again, our sponsor is Cult of Mac. Thanks so much, Cult of Mac, for sponsoring this week's podcast.
Pockets.
Let's keep this one brief. Newsletters. We have this fantastic newsletter, and I say that without any bias or any kind of... It actually is a really, really good newsletter. It's probably the best Apple newsletter out there. I mean, one guy wrote to me, I thanked one of the readers for commenting regularly, and he said, I genuinely look forward to this email every day. I genuinely look forward to it. And that really warmed my heart. It's at newsletters.cultofmac.com, newsletters.cultofmac.com. Please sign up. I'm sure you will love it. It's a bunch of great stuff, stories, Steve Jobs quotes every day, polls. The people love the polls. We do great polls. Our polls are the best. Newsletters.cultofmac.com.
Many people say these polls are the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Let's talk about this. Here's another, the same story, unfortunately. We're going to be sounding a little bit repetitive, but this is unfortunately the same story. Apple's pulled the plug on its ambitious AI health and wellness coach. But, there's some good news. It's parts of it are going to be living on. Mm-hmm. Griffin, why don't you tell us about this one?
The AI Health Coach project, internally codenamed Mulberry and referred to as Health Plus, recently folded. The new plan came after longtime executive Jeff Williams retired at the end of the year, with Services Chief Eddy Cue taking over the health organization. The new focus is all about updating the existing health app features. So Cue reportedly said to colleagues, Apple needs to accelerate its pace and become more competitive in the health space. He pointed to newer competitors like Aura Health and Whoop, which I've actually heard good things about from other people, noting that these companies offer more compelling features through their iPhone apps. I think Whoop, actually, their whole shtick is that it builds on top of the existing health app data, but the only difference is that it actually gives you recommendations and says, we processed all of your data, but here's something actionable you can do with it. You need to the health app will just tell you, oh, here's your average walking pace. But Whoop will say, oh, you should go for regular walks to, change those numbers or be healthier. So anyways, Apple spent years developing the AI-powered service, originally planning to launch it with iOS 26 last year. The debut was delayed multiple times before the project was ultimately scaled back. Apple designed the service to generate detailed health reports and deliver AI-driven recommendations to help users improve their well-being, and it would have combined new surveys and health assessments with data from Apple Watches and external lab reports. As part of the initiative, Apple built a content studio in Oakland, California, that's meant to produce educational videos explaining medical conditions, training plans, and wellness topics. And apparently that's still being saved. The video content and certain capabilities, such as suggestions based on existing health app data, may still come sometime this year. Another feature in development involves using an iPhone camera to analyze how a person walks. But I guess the AI health coach, the AI doctor, Eddy Cue came in and took one look at that project and said, no, you got to get rid of this. It's no good. So,
but it's a kind of a weird report because now, but they're still going to be rolling out small, parts of it, like Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah,
bits and
I guess he
pieces
said,
are gonna be...
this thing is good, that thing is good, but you get. I mean, that's a good thing about a leadership change. A leadership change always brings in, a fresh set of eyes that's able to, look at a project without bias and say, no, this sucks. That's not a good product.
Yeah, right. Someone that worked on it for 7 years and desperately wants to make it work. That's a good thing about Whoop. I was reading about Whoop. I haven't actually used one, but the Whoop app, I think the big difference is the actionable stuff. Like I was reading about sleep scores. I became obsessed with my sleep score, especially because I'm not getting any sleep these days. But and in fact, the sleep score is completely backwards on the Apple Watch. Like when I get terrible sleep, it gives me it seems to be. When I get bad sleep, I get a high score, and when I sleep well, I get a relatively low score. So I really don't know what's going on here. But Whoop will give you recommendations for all these kind of different experiments. So it'll tell you to. I think it has this thing called a journal, the journaling, some kind of journal in Whoop that allows you to record things like caffeine, like your caffeine intake. And
oh my god!
If you stop drinking caffeine after like 3 p.m. in the afternoon, it'll tell you what effect that has on your sleep score, or blue light late at night, or drinking alcohol. If you don't drink any alcohol, you can record this, and it'll actually try to coach you to set up all these different experiments, and it coaches you to set up one variable at a time, so it becomes clear what the important thing is. And that's supposed to be a really good feature, and that's the thing that's definitely missing from the health app. Like it tells you, it gives you these scores, and then they do have some stuff, don't they? Some explanatory stuff that tell you about like hypertension or high blood pressure or whatever, but nothing that really is actionable. And I wonder whether there's a liability issue here. Medical advice is a very touchy thing.
This is one thing that when Graham was talking about this, he was very, very skeptical about this whole AI doctor situation and like all the ways it can go wrong and all the horrible advice it could give you.
Well, my brother's a medical editor, and he said that there are laws in the EU that you're not allowed to use AI to produce any kind of the kind of stuff that he's doing. He writes for medical journals. Mm-hmm. He's often taking what doctors write in their reports and then making it, writing it for more of a lay audience or more for a general audience. And he said that there are laws that forbid using any AI in those kind of things because, this medical advice, you're not allowed to use a machine to give medical advice. It has to come from a doctor or somebody with, some kind of credentials, who's credentialed to give this kind of advice. And I wonder whether there's an issue with this kind of thing that Apple's getting into.
Don't know.
I think absolutely, it's a huge risk. I mean, there was in terms of the medical industry, I always think back to the story of like the Therac 25, which was like this advanced like machine that was supposed to like treat cancer patients by like specifically targeting like radiation treatment of certain things, and it was a computer that had a really poorly designed user interface and inundated the doctors and operators who were using it with like errors and screens, and it just trained people to ignore all of them. And it was this major lawsuit because they were using this machine incorrectly and blasting people with like orders of magnitude more radiation than was like humanly safe, and literally killing people. And
I thought it would just turn you into the Incredible Hulk.
you would think, but unfortunately not. I guess that was probably the problem with the machine. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. Well, I mean, I find some of the health apps sort of observations to be useful. You know, I mean, they give you like a weekly summary. Like for instance, your blood sugar has been in this range, more percentage this week, right? All kinds of things that they tell you. Although, like you're talking about the sleep score thing, I have found oftentimes I get an alert that says, "Oh, you had a really bad night of sleep because of interruptions. That's why you have a sleep score of 49. That's what it says on my lock screen. I tap on it, and it says you have a sleep score of 93. It's like, how could it not know what the actual sleep score was? How can it be two different things in two different places? That to me is an example of how things can go wrong. And you don't want something giving you bad information for sure about your health. I mean, that's a one-way ticket to lawsuits and horrible outcomes. But
and especially at the scale that Apple's doing things. I mean, what is it? The 2.5 billion devices in use now, in active use. The scale has got to be also making them very, very cautious. And all the different edge cases. Maybe these things work well for most people, but it's that 1% of times when it breaks down.
And 1% of the user base is still, 25 million people.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But then, I mean, all this stuff is like recommendations, right? I mean, it's never a diagnosis. They're very careful with all this stuff. The blood pressure stuff. It's like, it looks like you might have hypertension. Perhaps you should test it yourself or go see a doctor. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think all that stuff's totally great, and still yet to hear anybody say that they've had actually had one of those alerts. But
yeah, we did. One of the readers said that they got one and they got it checked out, and they did.
Oh, they did have it, right? Okay, yeah. So I guess I didn't mean to say I've never heard it once, but I haven't seen like a rash of these things. Usually when they introduce some new thing, some fall detection or whatever, like headlines around the world, fall detection saved this old lady who fell in her garage and would have never been found for weeks. All kinds of things like that, where the Apple Watch actually saves people's lives. But I just haven't seen a single news report about any of this, about the blood, specifically about that blood pressure.
Just wait until next September. I bet Apple will have a video on it.
And it's not the kind of thing that I actually did start to do some research into this, and I polled a couple of people, and I think we got more reports of false alarms where they said they got an alert and it actually turned out not to have hypertension, that their blood pressure was okay. But it's a sensitive issue, a medical issue. It's the kind of thing that I don't think people crow about. It's not something they're very proud of, is it? Like if they get rescued out in the wilderness because their Apple Watch, helped the rescue services locate them, I think that often comes from the rescue services themselves, or it's not something that people keep quiet. But I got my blood pressure's through the roof. I don't think it's something that people really want to crow about.
Yeah, sure. I guess I would think that. I don't know. I would expect that you would at least see some stuff on social media of people going, "Hey, I got this alert, went and got it checked out. Thank God it was right and it's really good." Or the alternative, which is actually sounds like what you have heard of people doing anecdotally. I got this alert, I got it checked out. False alarm. I mean, you would think that people would either be, writing letters of thanks to Tim Cook or blasting Apple for the false alarm. But I
guess you're not on the hypertension side of TikTok then.
I should go to the Reddit, the hypertension subreddit and look around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good going. All right, we'll do that for next week.
Yep.
Let's talk about this AirPods rumor about the next AirPods Pro. This is kind of funny, right, Lewis?
Yeah. New rumor says next generation AirPods Pro will come equipped with cameras that can perceive a user's surroundings. Okay. I guess that's fair enough. Here's what the actual... This is based on a single tweet, by the way, this intro. And I'm just going to read the entire thing. Next AirPods Pro can see around you at same price avail. This is from a leaker known as Kosutami. Fairly decent record for accuracy, I believe. I'm not so sure that... I mean, it doesn't say that quote is translated, but it's so cryptic and weird, it makes me wonder what the heck is actually going on. Anyway, this is the first time we've heard about cameras, right? Previously, one of our most revered Apple supply chain analysts, Ming-Chi Kuo, said that the 2026 AirPods Pro would feature at least one infrared camera in what he described as a more significant hardware upgrade than the one that brought a heart rate monitor to AirPods Pro 3. He previously suggested these cameras could enable hand gesture recognition and deliver an enhanced spatial audio experience when paired with Apple's Vision Pro headset. Okay, I'm not so sure that the world needs more people waving their hands in front of their ears, but maybe so. And then there's, yet another person has weighed in on this. Chinese leaker known as Instant Digital suggests a different scenario, and that was that instead of replacing the AirPods Pro 3, the 2026 model with infrared cameras would be a pricier high-end variant sold alongside the existing version. So, I don't know, what, AirPods Pro Ultra? AirPods Pro Max? What are they going to call?
Yeah.
They already have AirPods Max, though.
Yeah, AirPods. Well, why not just throw more words, all the same words in the name of
AirPods
products?
Ultra Max.
So
AirPods Pro Ultra Max.
What's between Pro and Ultra? Or no, Pro and Max? We don't know. I guess Ultra. No.
Yeah,
AirPods Ultra.
It could become even more confusing. It's already confusing that there's two AirPods 4, right? There's AirPods 4, and then there's AirPods 4 with active noise cancellation. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the idea was that maybe this would be fall somewhere between the AirPods Pro 3, which $250, and the AirPods Max, which $550. Who knows? Supposedly they're coming up with an H3 chip that's going to go in AirPods Pro, and they're also talking about adding temperature sensors.
Temperature sensors, isn't that what an infrared camera is? Don't you remember Predator?
I thought that this meant like body temperature sensors.
Right, but that's what you could get with an infrared camera. It would it detects heat. So I think that's how they do body temperature detection.
You think maybe all these people are talking about the same thing, but just in different ways and translated poorly, and so they're...
Yeah, because that's what because the camera thing I'm very skeptical about. I think in terms of like camera lenses, something that you could see, that maybe you could pull it up on your iPhone and it would give you these. You'd be like an insect, or something, or a rabbit. You'd be able to see in both directions at once.
I can't imagine this being like a full size, like take a picture with it camera that you see. It's probably like even the people who are suggesting that it'll be like a full camera, I don't think it's something that the user will see. It'll be, used for some other related ecosystem sort of feature, like, something to do with the Vision Pro. I think that's somewhat likely if they were to have a camera, what they would do with it. But I don't know, honestly.
Maybe it would do a thing where it can tell that there's a person around you and it goes into transparency mode or something like that, as opposed to only going into transparency mode when, you or a person talk loud enough to trigger the sensor. Maybe,
or if it hears your voice, but it says that, but it doesn't see a person around you. Like I have this problem all the time where I'm letting my dogs out and, I have my AirPods with like conversation awareness turned on. And then I say, Indy, come here. Indy, come here, Indy. And it takes a few times. And then it pauses the podcast I'm listening to, even though I'm not talking to a person.
Right. Yeah, that feature is helpful in some situations and not as reliable as it would be. I constantly walk around, and like I've mentioned before, both the wife and I work from home. So there's a lot of situations where I'm walking around with AirPods in my ear, or as I've mentioned before, one AirPod, just one. And she'll start, talking all of a sudden, like, I realize completely normal human thing. You walk into a room and say something, but it always takes a second for the AirPod to clip out and stop yammering. And I am not like a a TV news anchor who can like have something going in their ear and they can also talk at the same time. I don't know how in the world those people. I think those people are freaks. I don't know how in the world they do it. If I got something going in my ear, I forget it. I can't listen to anything else. I can't. It has to stop before I can have a conversation with someone. So maybe I mean, there's probably tons of situations where having this sort of like, LiDAR on your ears at all times could be helpful, right? I mean. Apple might come up with some novel ways to use that sort of data.
Yeah, and maybe it's something akin to gestures on your Apple Watch where it detects, you're pinching your fingers or those other movements you can make. I've never actually used those. Have you ever used those, Lewis?
Oh, a couple of times, but it just always feels so awkward and doesn't seem to really work that well. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I mean, there's not all that many times where I need to tap the screen of my Apple Watch to stop something. Maybe I should try it to stop a workout. That might help. But, I don't know. Like, ashing an invisible cigarette, it's kind of a weird gesture.
Picking an invisible blueberry, as you described the Vision Pro.
Yeah. It's all these weird things. So I don't know what, like, if they're talking about gestures for my AirPods, I mean, like, what? I'm going to, wax on to turn the volume up, wax off to turn the volume down. I don't know that I'm going to be doing that.
Well, perhaps it would be like a DJ. You could scratch in the air.
I will say, after I wear the Vision Pro a lot, the one gesture that I really internalized is the whole thing where you can now like look at your hand and then turn it over and see like a little floating clock next to your hand. I catch myself doing that in person a few times.
Oh dear!
If I spend a lot of time in the Vision Pro.
Well, the one thing I love about the new AirPods is the touch controls are so reliable that they work every single time. And, the volume up and the volume down, it's just and you can even do it with gloves. I do it with my cycling gloves on, and it works. And it works the first time you touch it. Like they've perfected that so well. And, you can control, like for music, you can go forward and back, skip to the end of the track, skip to the beginning of the track, volume up, volume down. The one thing I wish you could do is scrub through a longer track or scrub to a certain point in a track, which actually I listen to the BBC Sounds app quite a lot, and that has a great control where you can skip forward or back 20 seconds. So if you want to skip through a song, you just go click, 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 and double click, twice, a bunch of times, and it'll loop forward. And I was talking to Graham about this. I said, well, how come the BBC Sounds app behaves differently to all these other audio apps? And he said, well, because it's a podcast. It's everything put out on BBC Sounds, whether it's a podcast or not, is categorized as a podcast. It's a podcast app, and those are the in the Apple's API. The podcast controls allow you to skip ahead or back 10 or 20 seconds, whatever it is, but you can't do that with a music app. So that might be a nice thing. That's about the only thing I could think of, though, with gestures, that sort of fine control. I can't think of any other gestures, like at least for listening to musical podcasts. What other controls would you want?
I suppose it's possible that, you could use like a hand signal, like this to unlock a door. I mean, it wouldn't have to just be audio, right? I mean, if these are persistent things, infrared cameras on your body, I mean, you could use it for anything.
I mean, there are times when, it's kind of inconvenient, like raising my hand up to click the button on the AirPods. To go back to the same example, when I'm walking my dogs, like I might have a flashlight in one hand, the dog leash in the other hand. It might be easier if I could just like do a gesture like with my fingers rather than reaching up and moving things around, switching things around in my hands to click the button.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do you remember those air mice that you would
rings a bell?
Hold up in the air, and of course, that's because you can use camera control now, can't you? Your AirPods to control the shutter on your iPhone camera. That's a good point. Maybe it's maybe I'm completely not thinking about the right thing. It's going to be controlled for all sorts of stuff, isn't it? All kinds of apps and all kinds of controls for all sorts of different devices.
It's getting a little weird. It's like we're all becoming bionic.
Yeah. Let's talk about our setup this week. We have a really good feature on the best multi-Mac setups, which is like workstations that feature 2 or more Macs. And we're going to talk about this one. This one has one of the most unusual keyboards I've ever seen. But this thing is people are fanatical about this keyboard. Why don't you tell us about it, Lewis?
Yeah, I mean, first up, this is a list of top 10, right? And my first question is like, what in the world is this really a top 10? Anyway, because it's kind of a bare bones setup. But yes, at the center of this thing, aside from the two Macs, there's a Mac Mini or Mac Studio? I can't even tell. Mac Mini, M4 Mac Mini, and M3 MacBook Air. But the main thing in this is this weird keyboard, and it's called a ZSA Moonlander. Never heard of the company. Never heard of this thing. I mean, I've seen keyboards like this before. It's split in two parts with a cable running between it, so you can disconnect the two parts. In fact, that's how it comes with a case, so you can put one side in the case, one the other side in the case. The
cable that connects the two halves of the keyboard is really long, which makes me think, like, how do they expect this to be used? Like, one arm over here, one arm way over there? Like,
yeah, it is rather long. I mean, it's an ergonomic keyboard. That's what the whole deal is, right? And I can tell you that is a much better situation. Having your arms spread far apart rather than kind of jammed together. Definitely a better situation for your shoulders and everything for using a keyboard all day. However, that's like the beginning of the weirdness with this keyboard. This keyboard is like the keys are in columns, like straight up columns, and not whatever you call the standard QWERTY keyboard setup. These things
Staggered.
Are straight. Yeah, it's very it looks just basically like a tic-tac-toe board, only with 6 or 7 columns square, or a crossword puzzle, something like that. It's got weird sort of like, I guess, thumb rest buttons, those things are weird.
That's supposed to be the killer feature of these things, is those thumb buttons. And it's supposed to, I think, so you can use your thumbs for things like command and option, command paste, command cut, whatever.
Yeah.
Which I think gives a lot of people problems when they're on a regular keyboard, but those buttons there make it much easier to use your thumbs. And the red ones can be programmed.
The buttons aren't, towards the left corner and right corner of your keyboard because it's not a normal keyboard. They're towards the center where your thumb naturally is. So, I can imagine, like, if I have to do, Command V, I don't have to stretch my thumb way over here and press my finger over there. Like, it's right there under your thumb where it naturally rests.
Yeah, and this thing has like a, palm rests on either side, so that, you set your hands on there and then you use the thumb things. And I mean, honestly, if you look at those things, it looks like a pair of kitchen, mitts, right? The things you use to get something hot out of the oven. They also this thing also bends, like you can kind of tent it up and make it so that the keyboard is bent. Or like the bottom of it is up. It's a very strange keyboard. And you're talking about that red thing being programmable. You could program all these keys.
Yeah,
and they're mechanical key switches. You could swap out those things. You can get them with the letters printed on it or not. It's also got RGB backlighting. I mean, this is like the most crazy keyboard. I'm used to looking at ergonomic keyboards. I've never seen anything like this thing. It's very, very interesting and weird.
Didn't you have a split? You used to use a split keyboard like that, didn't you?
It was more like, it wasn't completely split. It was like split in the center and kind of splayed out, which was more comfortable than using a standard keyboard for sure. But something like this, I mean, I don't know. If you're a touch typist, I don't know how easy it would be to switch to this thing with that strange column layout. But, people on the website for this company, of course, they're not going to take, use examples of people who hate the thing, but people are raving about it, how great it is, how comfortable, and how much it makes their workflow better. So
the keyboard steals the show. Like, we're supposed to be talking about how he has 2 Macs on his desk, but
I know.
I mean, when you look at that keyboard, he also has a magic trackpad between the two halves of the keyboard. So I guess he has equal access to the trackpad from either hand. Maybe he's ambidextrous. That could be handy. Yeah. I'm just imagining, like, maybe he could also have a mouse, but to the right side of the keyboard.
That's another thing. They talk about this, using this for gaming. You can use only the left side, disconnect the right side completely, so you can put your mouse in a natural place and more comfortable, whatever, for gaming.
Well, the first question I ask myself is, why does he have 2 Macs? Or why do they have 2 Macs?
I know.
And apparently, one's for professional tasks and one's for personal.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, it's weird that the multi-Mac setup ends up being all about the keyboard, but what are you going to do?
I guess what we're saying is Dave needs to write up an article on, top 10 weird keyboard setups.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dave's a keyboard fanatic.
Yeah, he's written plenty about keyboards. Yeah, and that'll probably be his next roundup.
We've got a great comment from listener Connor Furlong about last week's discussion about AI killing jobs. And Connor says, quote, "This idea that AI is going to wipe out white-collar jobs is ludicrous. Think it through. Were it to happen, it would decimate the economy and make tens of millions of people unemployed and the loss of high-paying jobs. A country would collapse in that scenario, and so would the companies behind AI. We live in a totally integrated, independent economy. AI replacing white-collar jobs simply won't happen because it would be the business killing the customer, which kills the business. I think AI will basically continue to be what it is now, a tool people use to help them do whatever it is they already do. It won't replace what people do in any meaningful way."
That's optimistic.
It is very optimistic. I hope. I hope, and here's a good point. Like if it does decimate the economy, if it puts people out of work, where are these companies' customers going to come from? If everyone's begging out on the street, no one's going to be able to afford to pay the AI companies that have put them out of the work. But in the AI race, what we're seeing is a race right now with, I think, a lot of reckless companies that are spending enormous sums of money trying to find a return, and companies aren't. I don't know if they behave rationally. I don't think when a corporation does things like laying people off, it's not thinking about the broader economic picture. It's thinking about it in its own narrow, selfish terms. What's best for that particular
in the next
company.
quarter profits, and that's
exactly,
all to think
about. Please Wall Street. Yeah, obviously, I would like to agree with Connor Furlong, and this is an optimistic scenario that I could get behind. Yeah, it would be great.
I mean, the thing that I actually replied to him on YouTube, I don't think it'll wipe out all white collar jobs, because really arguments to that effect, even though they're kind of like, doomer scenarios, they're a kind of AI optimism. AI isn't good enough to wipe out every white collar job. It's only, barely good enough right now to have a massive change to the software development industry, even considering how much tokens are being sold at a loss right now. But
they're saying that the software industry is the canary in the coal mine. Like Dario, what's his face, the CEO of Claude of Anthropic, said that his engineers are no longer writing any code at all. It's all being handled by AI, and this is of course it's decimating. I don't know if it's decimating software jobs within Anthropic, because those engineers still to make those macro decisions about what is it we're building, what are the features we need, and they need someone, and they become more like a conductor. But he thinks it's killing entry level jobs. Entry level jobs in programming are going to go away.
A lot of the ways that we've been seeing it talked about amongst Apple software developer circles is independent developers like Steve Stroughton-Smith, who we, used him as an example in last week's article, saying, oh yeah, I was able to, use Codex to make 3 apps from scratch. And then he also in the last week, he went on a tear saying that he had Codex look at his code base and then convert it into like an Android code base, something that he could like straight up put on the Google Play Store. But, again, those are really small projects. And another thing specific to Steve's use case is that all of his apps are, meticulously coded by hand using, UIKit, which is Apple's very, more old-fashioned, dusty but reliable user interface framework. Codex is much worse at writing Swift UI, not only because there's much less code to train on, but also because Swift UI itself keeps changing, and it's, a much twitchier user interface framework. Like, the big problem, this is an older problem, which is why I'm not sure it's going to like completely eliminate white collar programming jobs, because there's already a bunch of, massive code bases out there that are too big and complex for a human to handle or understand, like, Salesforce or Facebook, millions upon millions of lines of code run these things. And yeah, you can have an AI thing spit out a new framework. But what a lot of other software developers are saying who've used these tools is that you ask an AI system to, add this new feature, and it reinvents everything from scratch. It doesn't use the existing frameworks that it could use to make things simpler. So you're just like multiplying and multiplying and multiplying the overall amount of code to degrees that, like, nobody understands, nobody can read or maintain. And so there's still going to be, a need for high value people at the top wrangling these things, reining things in, saying, no, you can't just, do pull request after pull request of features that we already have, re-implementing.
Well, true enough, but people I think are worried that you have a highly capable system, and yes, you're going to need a human in charge of it, but you're not going to need 100 human. Currently, a company employs 100 people all up and down from beginners to experts, and they could reduce their headcount to just a few experts who are using AI to do all these tasks that previously were done by, dozens of other people. And I think that Dario Modi was predicting, or someone else was predicting, like within 18 months, it's going to sweep through accounting, lawyering, all these different white-collar professions where there's a lot of sort of data.
Look, a lot of lawyers have used AI to generate, court motions and pleas and things like that. It has not gone well for those lawyers. I'll say that. There's a lot of stories of, judges reviewing these documents that are sent to them, and they basically respond with,
right.
Yeah, half of these cases are made up. It's hallucinating everything. The two sort of, big picture problems that I'm seeing right now are, one, how are people going to learn anything? Stories of high school students and college students who don't take the time to read or learn the classes that they're doing. Like how are the next generation of senior software developers going to learn anything if they're using ChatGPT to do all of their homework and projects for them? They don't read any coursework. They don't read any essays in their English classes. They don't do their history homework, their math homework. They don't do any of their programming homework, especially now that these tools exist. Nobody's going to learn Swift anymore. Well, and another problem is, yes, it works now, but a big part of the reason why it works now is there is a massive amount of training data of bespoke human crafted code that it can train on. The more these things are out in the world, the next generation of coding agents, how are they going to get better if they're training on mediocre code that they've already generated 2 years ago?
AI slop,
these are also big problems. So you still need an economy of humans writing good, handcrafted, high-quality code to be training data.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I had a bad week. I was very, very pessimistic about the whole thing. Like, oh God, it's doom. Mm-hmm. Skynet is imminent. We're all, we're going to become just flesh batteries inside some giant vat to feed the machine.
I actually think I was being too optimistic last week. Nobody was saying this at me specifically, but sentiment on Mastodon was like, oh, all of these people who are against AI generated text and AI images are suddenly okay with AI generated programming. And I was like, I didn't quite say that myself, but that is something, an opinion that I need to examine this is such a big, complex topic that is going to have massive ramifications. I hope we can be forgiven for not having solid opinions at this point.
Right. Yeah.
One of the maybe this is one of the things you read this week, Leander, but I read a thing talking about how the study of AI use in companies, how it basically people were able to use it to do more things, but instead of that meaning they have more free time, it meant no. Now you're dealing with 7 projects at once because the AI is helping you do it, and now you're even more scattered, and you send a prompt after work hours, and you do all these. It was basically saying yes, it helps people get more stuff done, but that's not necessarily a good thing, and it doesn't necessarily deliver better results because
it doesn't mean you'll have less work or less working hours. It means you'll just be expected to do 5 times more than you've done before.
Right.
I mean, it's go back to watch the Jetsons cartoons from the 50s and 60s. It's their dream of a utopia is, somebody who only works 2 hours a day, 4 days a week. But no, we have all the, magical automation that people in the 50s couldn't even dream of. And instead we're working just the same number of hours, if not even more.
Yeah. And this was basically saying because people are able to do more, now they're going to screw up more because they can't pay as much attention to any given thing. That was one of the doom reports.
If you've ever been caught in the bureaucracy of an online system that you need to be able to do to like access your medical records or, your taxes or something before, it's only going to get worse because now humans probably won't even be looking at that code.
There you go, Leander. Right back to the doom and gloom.
Precisely. I was going to chip in some more stuff, but let's move on. We got a new way for us to for you guys to send us questions, and this is using iMessage. So please message us at cultofmacpodcast@icloud.com. cultofmacpodcast@icloud.com, and we'll put this in the show notes, of course, so you can see it. So you can send us a text or send us an audio recording or even a video. Which would be great. Like if we get a video of someone making a comment or asking a question or whatever you like, send us a short clip and if it's good, we might be able to put it on the show.
And more importantly, compared to our old system, we can actually text back now.
Okay.
So
yeah,
people didn't understand that before. People would send us like direct questions like, oh, I'm sorry. This isn't something I can really ask on the show. And so I guess you'll just never know the answer. But now I can text back. It goes to a spare iPhone I have set up. I guess Leander and Lewis, if they have spare iPhones, they could sign into it as well. But I'll be looking at those.
I'll do the same. And actually, talking of messages, we have a really great tip. Griffin wrote a really good post this week about 6 great features in iOS 26 in messages. There's some 6 notable new features, but we were just going to talk about one particular one that Lewis made use of and thought, like, how did I never know this? It makes it much clearer who you're texting and which groups or which person if you fiddle this one setting.
Yeah, so now you can set a background in a chat. If you're on iOS 26, you just tap the person's name at the top or the name of the group. This applies to group chats as well. And sort of like how you can rename a group chat and set the picture for it, it changes it for everybody. You go to the Backgrounds tab, and Apple has a number of built-in animated ones like sky, water, aurora borealis, and you can pick through a few different color options for each of those. They're nice and pretty. You can also choose your own picture. It has suggestions where it sort of like how it recommends lock screen pictures for you to use. It'll recommend pictures that it thinks would make good backgrounds, or you can tap photo and choose from any arbitrary one in your photo library. For some reason, you can also generate one with Image Playground. I don't know why you would do that, but the option is available. So it's really easy to do. You just again tap on the conversation name at the top, tap the Backgrounds tab, and then you can choose a background. And the main benefit is that you set a specific one for your partner, and then you won't accidentally text the wrong person messages that you intend for them, because you'll be able to easily identify which conversation is which.
Yeah, and it's great for like group messages. I can just like that's the worst scenario. You're on a group text message thing and somebody says something and then you mean to reply to somebody else about it, like, hey, can you believe they want to do this? And no, you put it in the main room, right? And it's like, oh God. So this is awesome. I honestly, like, I had never heard of this feature. I was thrilled to read it and learn about it. And I instantly set it up with, for my wife and I, and she goes, how did you make the text message blue? Or not blue bubble, but like it has a blue background, right? I said, yeah, it's just right there. It's like so simple, and I had no idea it existed either, and it's pretty great. So now, like, I know when I'm sending a text message to my wife, it's going to my wife, not my band or my group of 3 people who are planning a trip for the weekend. So it could keep you out of hot water. I think it's a great tip.
Yeah, it's a classic email CC everyone, CC all, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Another one, I guess I'll just shout out another one, because this is what I'm looking forward to using, as soon as all my friends are on iOS 26, is you can do a poll in a chat as well. So you can tap polls, and you can add, I think, up to 12 options. You can vote for multiple things. So, if you can't figure out where to eat or what to do for a weekend, just send a quick poll, and then people can vote, and you can quickly figure out, most people are okay with this thing. We'll go fencing,
Fencing. All right.
I sure it means cool. Fencing stolen goods, right?
Yes.
Not getting stabby.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Good tip there. Good tip. Yeah, there are so many features out there now. I mean, there's so much stuff that's hidden It's great to get these things to know about these little things that make your life easier.
So if you'd like to see the 6 others, you can read the article in the show notes.
That's right.
Or watch the video. You made a short video about it, right?
Mm-hmm. Only like 2 minutes long. Pretty quick.
All right, I think that's a wrap. Thanks very much for everybody for listening. Please leave us a 5-star rating on Apple or a review in Apple Podcasts, or share it with someone who you think would like to listen to us. Text us or send us a video question on iMessage. And again, it's cultofmacpodcast at iCloud.com, cultofmacpodcast at iCloud.com to ask your questions for the show. You can find Lewis on Twitter at Lewis Wallace. Griffin's on Mastodon at Griffin Jones, and I write the Cult of Mac newsletter every day, which is at newsletters.cultofmac.com. So thanks a lot. Thanks everybody for listening, for watching, and we'll see you next time. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Goodbye.
See ya.